Does LDR give more damage than Infinity? That's very curious, because I'm buying Infinity second like every game. Is LDR second actually better? I don't think so, but we'll see what it has to say.
Played a traditional crit ADC, you've been faced with the choice of what to build next. Infinity Edge or Armor Penetration?
Yes, a lot of times it happens, because you go Yuntal first usually, or Collector first, and then you have to go like Infinity LDR. Seal items, not good unfortunately. Unless Yunara, I guess. Yunara is an exception.
I've seen endless debates over the years justifying one over the other, but I've never seen someone break down the math behind their choices. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. The goal is to break down how their different stats change your expected damage output while taking into account the kind of targets you're likely to be attacking.
Okay.
Like, what if they have a Randuin's Omen, for example?
Ooh.
One thing.
Ooh. You cry in the corner if they have Randuin Omen. No item is gonna save you. It's just, you're a caster video now. Congrats.
Thing I think I can say with certainty is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer here. It definitely depends on the enemy team.
For
I
sure.
say this before having run the numbers though, so let's see if I'm right. Hi, I'm Robin, and welcome to the League Encyclopedia.
Wow. I've never seen a video
As
from
it
him.
stands here in August 2025, Crit 80
How many subscribers? 1.5k? Sheesh. Damn, this looks good. This looks, I like it already. Looks well put together.
ADCs are decently popular, and their builds as far as core items go are fairly varied as well. From Lucian and Sivir rushing Essence Reaver, Jinx and Caitlyn going Yuntal, to MF and Samir.
On Caitlyn, you could argue there's other options as well. Like Collector is great on her. Well, lethality, right? But it's okay. Yuntal is okay. Especially if they have frontline. Caitlyn, Yuntal is good, for sure.
Are getting a Bloodthirster first. After that, they all tend to go for an attack speed item, whether that's Navori Flicker Blades, Rapid Fire Cannon, or Runin's Hurricane.
Not really, right? Because if you go Yuntal, you have attack speed already, so it makes sense to go Infinity LDR, right? But I want to see what he has to say.
It's after that point, though, that things really heat up. You now have to make a choice. More raw power,
I need more power.
Okay.
or boosting your existing damage with armor penetration. A lot of people blindly believe that Infinity Edge third is a must, and anything else is pure troll. But
I would say if you have to make the choice third item, then yeah, there is a difference. But after Yuntal, you usually want to go Infinity Lord Omnix right away. So it makes sense to go Infinity second every game, because second item, people are not going to have that much armor. So it won't be that late into the game. You're only going to buy like Zeal item 4 for a lot of times, if you buy Yuntal first. So it's going to be interesting like, to see what it has to say. That's the difference. It depends when you buy it. Oh my god, CPA with another raid. Crazy. Thank you so much.
how true is that? Let's start with a quick look at what we're actually comparing here. Infinity Edge gives you 65 AD, 25% crit chance,
good
and boosts
item.
your crit damage by 40%.
It's expensive though.
Mortal Reminder and Lord Dominic's Regards both give you 35 AD, 25% crit chance, but LDR gives you 40% armor penetration, while Mortal Reminder only gives
I really, it's so annoying. The fact that like if you want to buy anti-heal, you have to sacrifice armor pen and it costs like 200 more gold. Like, like what? It's not cool. It's not good design, I think. It feels annoying to buy anti-heal because of it.
5, but applies Grievous Wounds to combat enemy healing. So regardless of which item you're grabbing, you'll end up at 75% crit chance, which is great for us because it'll make the
Yeah,
math just a little bit.
one great thing that Riot did is give items 25% crit chance. They used to be 20 for a long time. They changed them back to 25, which is great because you actually can buy a non-crit item, last item, if you ever reach that point anyway.
Easier, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Because of the varied crit landscape at the moment, I've filled in a table here to illustrate the different AD and attack speed stats we're likely to have at 2 items and level 11.
That's considering you buy Zeal item second. Again, I think I'm talking only about Jinx because I'm a Jinx guy. Jinx makes more sense to go Infinity second, right? Not Zeal. But okay, assuming Zeal item second, okay?
I tried to only include the more traditional full crit ADCs, so like Twitch is absent because he tends to go for Blade of the Rune King first. I also didn't include Jhin, for example, because his attack speed is fixed and he converts attack speed to AD, so he's an outlier in the space. And anyone building Bloodthirster first is also out.
I wish he included Yonara as well, but I guess she wasn't out when he started making the video, which makes sense.
Of course, there's loads of champions building IE second these days, and
Yes.
they don't fit into our simplified model here
Oh, okay, there you go.
either. But that's okay, because we're just trying to get like a feel for the average differences.
Okay, sure.
And we've got a decent enough
But
spread
we assume Zil second, and then we look what's best third item. That's okay.
of the numbers here.
We want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted.
Hate hearing the fucking numbers!
To start with, let's take the most simplified version of our question here and see what the math tells us. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out at what armor breakpoint armor pen beats raw damage. We'll use Xayah for this example, and the formula for DPS is as follows. We need to multiply our attacks per second times the expected damage of our critical strikes and our normal attacks. The base crit
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
multiplier is 1.75, by the way. At least at the moment. They've changed it in the past. And Infinity Edge is the only thing that affects that value.
Yep.
So if we're attacking at 1.311 times per second with 151 AD and 50% crit chance, our DPS is about 272. If we were to add
This is on 0 armor, I guess. That's the problem. Like, you gotta, add armor to target abyss.
Infinity Edge on top of that, our crit chance, of course, bumps up to 75%, and our crit multiplier is now 2.15, which means our
Look at that damage increase from one item. It's insane.
DPS goes
Infinity Edge.
all the way up to 527.
Bro, like, Infinity Edge does so much for crits. Just because, like, this is the only item with crit damage, so it makes a lot of sense. Like, this is what I think we need in League. A couple more items that can give you crit damage. And honestly, Zeal items giving some crit damage would be cool. Imagine you could only buy one Zeal item, and they give you, like, 10% crit damage. Damn, that's so cool. And then, of course, you nerf Infinity Edge. Remove some Infinity Edge crit damage from Infinity Edge, make Infinity cheaper, and then add some of it on the Zeal items and make them a bit more expensive as well. I think that would be nicer. And then it would, like, allow Zeal users like Jinx to actually go Ronald second, not have to go Infinity second, because that's mathematically the correct choice, right? That would be cool. I would love to see that, but we'll see if Wright is actually cooking or not.
And that's why ADCs spike so hard on 3 items. But now we need to compare that to getting armor pen. And so far, we've been assuming our target has 0 armor. So let's change that to 100, which we know will reduce our damage by exactly 50%. Now let's compare that to having LDR instead of Infinity Edge. And would you look at that? At 100 armor,
It's less.
Infinity Edge beats out LDR by about 25 DPS. Is that higher or lower than you thought? Personally, I'm a bit surprised, actually.
I mean, the problem is that I feel like the game has so much flat armor, so that makes armor pen percentage very good.
I would have thought it'd be a little bit higher, but let's see what happens at 200 armor.
Now it starts to get serious. Place your bets.
Looks like 200 armor is just about the breakpoint for Xayah, where the 2 items are even at about 175 DPS. I wonder if that's true for the other ADCs in the table.
Yeah, Xayah I don't think is the best example, because most of her damage I feel like she comes from her abilities, especially her E. That's how you deal with most of your burst damage, Unlike if you play Jinx, you basic attack. You play Yonara, you basic attack, right? So I just want to see other ADCs.
Let's take a look. And it looks like somewhere around the 200 mark is where LDR comes online relative to IE for all of our boys here. And
Yeah,
while
remember, Infinity Edge is a bit more expensive, and also remember, Infinity Edge is more attack damage. So for Xayah, for example, Infinity is 100% better, even at 200 or 250, because you have more AD and ability scale of AD. So it's important to know that.
it does beat out IE at the 300 armor mark, it's still a surprisingly low amount.
There's Jinx as well. I did my damage testing as well with Jinx, and for sure, like, just go Infinity. Yeah.
At this point, I think it would be a good idea to mention a few caveats to all of this. Starting with the fact that we're just comparing raw DPS here. There's
Exactly.
so many other factors that matter way more. So I'm not saying
This is gospel.
I'm the Messiah and you're all my grubby little disciples. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I'm like splitting the itemization sea here and we're all going to cross over into some promised optimal build land, okay? Like, I'm not saying that. We're also isolating the effects here and ignoring certain things that factor into true DPS, like Caitlyn headshots or Jinx's ramping attack speed.
Exactly, or if you play Unara, her passive, right?
Another super important factor that isn't addressed here is that Armor Pen applies to all physical damage.
True.
While crit damage amp only works on, well, crits or auto attacks. So like Jinx Rocket, which deals a % health as physical damage, is amped up way more by LDR than the 30 AD you would get from IE. So just keep all of that in mind as we move forward, because next up is where things get really interesting.
What is this? Under Rabbit Hole? What is this? Having so many references. It's crazy.
At the start that I expect the optimal choice to be dependent on the enemy team. And while our little armor calculation touches on that, it's only scratching the surface of what I want to explore. The enemy has far more options than just raw armor to deal with crit ADCs like Randuin's, Ninja Tabby, or even Frozen Heart. So what
I hate these items. Top 10 images to show ADCs to scare them.
I want to test is how does our rule of thumb change if the enemy is building to counter you? So I've come up with several different configurations of items and stats and kind of what they represent. After thinking about it, Frozen Heart is actually absent from this because we can easily see that changing your attack speed just has a proportional effect on your entire DPS given infinite time. It could make a difference in the short run. You know, like maybe you don't crit on your first 3 autos or something like that, and the autos are slower, so your DPS is lower in that sense, but it kind of comes down to chance at that point, and we're trying to remove randomness from the equation as much as possible. Again, we'll use Xayah as our example here with the same rune page as earlier, by the way. I know that this is far from Xayah's real rune page,
Probably one little tempo, press attack.
but I wanted to remove as many
Oh, he want to remove. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, he want to remove attack speed, attack damage, everything from runes. Although I think he could keep the adaptive force in the rune here, and the flex, like the attack speed shard here, because those use every game. The other things, sure, right?
variables as possible, and these runes do just that. Against a target with 100 armor and steel caps, we have a DPS of about 239 with IE, while LDR gives us around 216.
Yep.
The difference in DPS before was close to 26, and with Tabby, it's only down to 23. Kind of makes plated steel caps seem bad when you put it like that, but that just kind of goes to show you how easily data can be manipulated to fit a narrative. Like, imagine if this video was titled, "Plated steel caps are actually terrible and here's why." I could make that video, and these numbers would kind of support that. Anyway, at 150
No, plated steel caps, it's just so...
armor, we're
Oh my god, Keto with the prime. Thank you, 35 bucks, crazy. Thanks so much.
looking at about 191 with IE and 182 DPS with LDR. So we can see that they're getting closer together as we approach that rough
Yeah, but again, like Infinity deals more damage abilities, so it's not worth it.
200 armor breakpoint we discovered earlier. But that's already pretty interesting, right? Against your average one item tank with
And also after you buy Infinity second, let's say, or third, whatever, then you can buy Crit Cloak for the LDR, which further amplifies the crit damage that you buy from Infinity Edge. So it's even better.
Tabby, IE
Think
is
about that as well.
still better, of course, but not nearly by much. Now, what if we were to add Randuin's to the mix?
Ooh.
Unfortunately, the practice tool doesn't seem to work with Randuin's Omen when it comes to the DPS calculation
really?
underneath the training dummies. It correctly assesses that your overall damage is lower, but then still tells you that your DPS is the same, which is obviously false,
That's
so we
weird.
will have to rely on our own calculations here. But anyway, as expected, your overall damage does go down by quite a lot. Randuin's is a great, underrated item. Please
It's
build
so big. It's so insane.
it more. But in terms of difference in DPS, we are going from roughly 9 down to 5. Now what if we're up against a tank that has more than one item and is much closer to the 200 armor mark with Tabby and Randuin's? Or even 300 armor. What does that look like?
Yeah.
So we see they only move closer in terms of DPS. And past 300 armor, LDR is strictly better than IE, even without Tabby or Rand.
But who the hell has 300 armor? This, you know, unless they're like full build committed to countering you, or they're Ramos, you know.
But even at 200 armor with Tabby and Randuin's, the DPS difference is just super tiny. And this is true for all of our ADCs, by the way. I won't go through all of them here now because that would just take absolutely forever and be extremely boring, but here's the full chart for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Infinity Edge is just better because it has crit damage. Crit damage on a crit build makes more sense than armor pen, right? For sure.
Where do we go from here? Well, if you're an ADC main and you've wondered about this very thing before, I think you should like and subscribe. And if you're not, or you haven't wondered about that, I still think you should like and subscribe. On a serious note though, I'm not trying to convince anybody to build LDR over IE first.
Okay.
In fact, after doing this, I'm almost convinced that it's never better unless the enemy team is truly just like 4 beefcakes and an ADC.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, League is never that straightforward. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing to keep
You
in mind
can't
when
rely on like calculations only, you know, like the math doesn't lie, but in the real game things are different. But yeah, I feel like LDR just doesn't make sense to buy before Infinity. Unless crazy examples like Ramos, then maybe, right?
looking at these numbers is the caveat I mentioned earlier, which is that Armor Pen will apply to all physical damage, not just auto attacks. So Pen
Fair. That's fair. Again, that's fair. Yeah, something to consider. But then again, Infinity Edge has more attack damage, which further boosts your ability damage. So in a way, they kind of complement each other. They kind of cancel each other, right?
helps you take turrets faster, for example, or it affects Lucian ult damage way more than IE would. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of situations where LDR does beat out IE. DPS just isn't one of them, unless the target has a bunch of armor. Now I want to hear from all of you though. What goes into your decision to build LDR versus IE first? Do you always go IE?
Yes,
Are any of you
Every time.
LDR stands? And if so, why?
every time.
There's so many other axes by which you could compare these items, but I do think DPS is a pretty important one.
That's the main one. I mean, you're just gonna hit them as much as possible, right?
Anyway, let me know if I missed something important, or if you've got additional caveats that we should all keep in mind. The conversation continues down in the comments, and I want to thank you very much for watching.
Honestly, I mean, for your probably first video or whatever, I don't know. I'm actually probably not first video. How many videos do I have? I have a few videos. Interesting. But I guess this one popped off a little. Yeah, I would say interesting video, but one piece of advice I have for you, like you have so many time in this video, especially at the end here, like where there's absolutely nothing on the screen. You should just show some gameplay. People love to see gameplay. But whatever. No, good video. I like to see people doing testing like this.